Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome. Good afternoon, and welcome to our live air quotes slash virtual studio audience. Thank you so much for joining our Real People, Real Talk session, moving from awareness into action. Hey, y'all. Make sure you are tuned in, listening, eager and aware. And if you don't mind, do me a favor and share the link. I know not everybody had the opportunity to register, but it's not too late. So if you are on YouTube with us, just click the button to copy the link, share, text your friends, invite your family members, somebody who needs to hear a good word to encourage them, to equip them, and to empower them as we talk about moving from mental health awareness to action, advocacy, where we can really make a difference. Good afternoon.
Amen.
If you don't know me, I guess today I am your motivational moderator, Latoya. I'm so glad to join you. I am a partner, a friend, a member of the board of the Jazmine T. Bryant Brighter Day Fund. And y'all, I have the privilege, the esteemed honor to welcome our founder, our leader, our captain in this endeavor, Miss Teresa Lane. A round of applause from the studio audience to say God bless you and welcome, woman of God. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Thank you so much for spearheading this event and all of the activities of the Brighter Day Fund. Y'all, if you tuned in time, then you did get an opportunity to see the promo video, and we have done some serious stuff. I know I was
Yeah.
not invested in the beginning, but I'm looking at the walk, I'm looking at the food drives, I'm looking at the comedy shows, I'm looking at all of the activities, all of the hands that have been involved and engaged in ensuring we are a people who are not only bringing attention to the matter, but doing something about it. And I say that to celebrate you, Terry, and say thank you for inviting me to partner with you to share in this endeavor. And because we have a few minutes together, and as people are sharing the link, I'm just going to invite you, my friend, to not just tell your story. Most of us know the story of how the fund came into existence, the
Yes.
circumstances that brought you to this place. But what we want to find out today is, in the middle of everything, what sustains you and what motivates you, and how do you keep going?
Well, first, I want to say thank you to you. Um, I wasn't sure whether you would even have the time to be a part of something that means so much to me. And when you said yes, I was so honored. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You are my sister. You are my friend. Not only do we collaborate as far as the fun, but just life. We live life together. We say it all the time. And I just want to say, like, just so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, my sister. Um, so you asked the question, what sustains me? I have several things. I have a couple of points here that I wanted to share. Firstly, my faith. If it wasn't for God, um, I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. Losing a child, regardless of whether it's to mental health, drug addiction, substance abuse, whatever the case may be, it's a hard burden to carry. And, I just thank God that I'm able to even be here today. Um, Also, my love for my daughter. Like, I love that child today, tomorrow, forever. And there's not a day that goes by that I don't think of her and honor her. She that sustains me. Also, as much as we miss Jazz, she had three brothers, right? Three brothers, and they miss her as well. But uh, life goes on, regardless of whether tragedy hits you and you lose somebody. life still must go on, and I have to live for them, right? And lastly, as far as what sustains me, is I want people to care about others going through mental health issues, as it's connected to drug addiction, substance abuse, realizing that it's a disease.
Yeah.
It's not just something that somebody chooses for themselves. It's a disease, just like any other disease that happens in somebody's life. I want to stop the stigma. I want to stop people from sweeping it under the carpet and just acting like it's not real. Um, I want to encourage people to get help, the help that they need. And I want to encourage families to support their loved ones and help them fight themselves into wellness instead of having to deal with fighting every day these voices, these demons that haunt people. Um, that is what sustains me, and that's what keeps me going. And I'm just so thankful that I have a great support system, which you absolutely are a part of. And even though Jazz isn't here for us to fight for, we're building a legacy. Her name is helping so many others. And we want to do more. We're not finished, we're not done.
I love that. I love that. I love your story. And I think many of you have heard me share this before. When Terry initially reached out to me and invited me to be a part of the fund, I said, okay, well, let's have a conversation. And she told me her story. And y'all, by the time she finished her story, it wasn't about having time. It was, I will make time for this, whatever you need from me. I meant it then. I mean it now. I will mean it forever. So, yes and amen. Definitely an
Yeah.
honor, a tribute, and great love for Jazmine. I have one more question before I let you go. A parent comes to you and says, "My child was just diagnosed with a mental illness." What are your first words to a parent, to someone who is now, um, they didn't volunteer, but they are now definitely in this fight? What do you say to that mom? What do you say to that dad as they prepare to step into this journey?
One of the first things I would say is keep fighting. Keep fighting for your loved one. Keep advocating. Don't give up. No matter what the doctors may say, no matter how many people turn their backs or it doesn't seem like they're going to help you, keep fighting, keep advocating, keep praying. Don't be silent. A lot of people are I guess shame comes with this disease. And so people stay silent and they don't share. But being open and transparent over the situation, talking to the right person, and I say the right person because there's wrong people out there to talk to. Um, Talking to the right person could lead to the very conversation um, to have help for your loved one. Um, get involved with some sort of support group. Unfortunately, my support group that I got involved with, Mending Hearts, they ultimately helped me get through my grief, the 5 stages of grief. That really, really was something that was pivotal for me to try to help get over the hump, to start living again. So but I would encourage people to get involved with a support group to help them while they're going through, while they're working things out for their loved one. And lastly, self care.
Yeah.
Because if you aren't taking care of yourself, if you're wearing yourself down, which being a caregiver does that to you, how are you going to take care of that person that you love so dearly? You won't be open to listen to to advocate for them, to love on them if you're tired and if you're not taking care of yourself. So those are some of the points that I would like to share. And I would tell anybody who is dealing with somebody who is dealing with mental challenges, drug addiction, substance abuse, and any one of the three,
Yeah.
and homelessness,
Yeah.
which is something that ultimately could happen to somebody because the family just is tired. They don't know how to help. And so those are some of the points that I would like to point out to people that are struggling and need the help.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Terry, for sharing your story. Thank you to our friends who jumped on. Hey, Sean McGeady, we hear you, we see you. Welcome, Dimitri. Welcome, Danielle, I believe it was. Dr. Hall, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing your stories, words of encouragement. We encourage you guys to keep posting throughout. Know that we are on screen helping people, but absolutely in the chat, there's a wealth of information, a wealth of resources, a wealth of encouragement and support. And when you're hearing from a Terry Lane, when you're hearing from our presenters that are next up, they're not talking to you about stuff they read about, they're talking to you about stuff they know about. So when you want the truth, the full truth, the absolute truth from those firsthand witnesses, this is definitely the place to be. Want to encourage you guys to keep sharing the link. Love it. Thank you, Danielle Tyson. We will keep you in mind, sis. I'm going to let Terry now retreat, which is something she likes to do, but she will join us again as we when we come to the close of our show. But next, I want to introduce our panelists for today. We have Dr. Desiree Guyton, who will be joining us, and Mr. Justin Hall, two practitioners in the field of mental health, a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of expertise, a wealth of instruction. And we are so glad to have them join us on the panel. So we're going to have a sort of a roundtable discussion. I'm going to toss out a couple questions, but the next several moments will be dedicated to letting these two professionals share with you their stories and their encouragement, again, as to how we can move from the place of awareness to advocacy. So as Christiana brings them up, we're going to welcome Desiree Guyton, and we're going to welcome Justin George. Say thank you both for donating your time, your expertise. Good evening, Nicole Brody. Hey, hey, hey. Welcome, 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 and welcome to our two panelists today. So glad to have you guys on. Appreciate you coming to share your knowledge and your expertise. And so I'm going to be quiet and just give our panelists a few moments to introduce themselves. They can tell you about themselves much better than I can. So I'll defer to ladies first. Desiree, if you can just give us a few moments, tell us about yourself, share your bio very quickly, and then we will ask Justin to do the same. So Desiree, the floor is yours, my dear.
Well, first, I want to say thank you for having me and inviting me to this space that is so critical for us to have this conversation. So I am Desiree Guyton. I am the owner of Healing Quest Counseling Villages, and which is in South Jersey. And so we have in-person as well as virtual offices for individual and family counseling, as well as founder of Healing Quest Counseling Village. Of Quest Trauma Healing Centers, which train churches to lead trauma healing groups domestically and internationally. And so, I guess I'll leave it at that, and we'll talk a little later.
Thank you so much. Justin, tell us about yourself, sir.
Hi, how you doing? I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I look forward to talking to everybody. And a little bit about myself. I do work for Inspira Hospital. I've been there for the last going on almost 20 years. I started in a new program this year. It's actually called BART, where we work in the emergency room, and when someone comes in with either a mental health issue or drugs or alcohol, they usually tag us to go see these people and try to give them resources and let them know that, there's a lot of different things out there, a lot of different programs that are out there to try to get you help. And basically we deal with voluntary patients, the people that want help. And, after we screen them and talk to them and they do want to get the help that they want, and then we try to get them into different programs, whether it's inpatient programs or if it's an outpatient program. There's so many different resources out there that I think that a lot of people don't realize that are out there to help you. And that's even if, there's obviously people that don't have insurance and stuff like that. There's still definitely a lot of programs out there that will take these people in and try to give you the help that you need. So proud to be on the staff. And before I worked for BART, that's the name of our program, I was actually I worked on the mental health units, whether it was with the kids or whether it was with the adults, and basically did that for about 18 years. So it's a little bit about myself. So.
Thank you so much, Justin. Appreciate you both for sharing. Just to our studio audience, guys, that you are aware, we welcome that you post any questions that you may have in the chat. We do anticipate having time for some brief Q&A once we conclude our discussion. So if you have questions as we journey, please post those in the chat, and we will be able to circle back at the end of our conversation to touch on those. Before we move any further, though, I'll start again with Desiree. Desiree, why mental health? Out of all of the professions, all of the careers, all of the different areas of medicine to practice, why mental health? How did you come to mental health?
That's a loaded question, but I'm going to try to keep it as simple. When I really reflected on this was that my mother, I watched her advocate for my oldest brother, who is 17 years older than me, who had schizophrenia. And that had really shaped our entire family. And one of my brothers was recently mentioned that to me, of watching her, because he had mental health during the 70s, 80s, where there was a lot of what they call the darker ages, where they were, and he also had a drug addiction. But she advocated. We watched her stay up at night. We watched her make those phone calls. We were impacted with seeing the actual episodes at times. And so that was one of the journeys, but I never really thought I would ever get into mental health, but really watching and growing up in it. But then what happened is in my ministry journey, I was a youth director for a very large youth ministry for years. And I've watched different traumas, was walking alongside of families. And, we were sending them to just, people, mentors or biblical counseling, but people weren't able to really, really help at a level that needed to be that support. And that started to really get me more reading about mental health and how can we really help people. And then I also experienced it working at Urban Promise as a children's director, where we literally, I remember some of the struggles we had was really around a lot of the kids who were really struggling. And so that journey led me to, I was in seminary, finishing my last course for my Master of Divinity, and I took a counseling course and said, wait a minute, that's the missing piece for ministry, right? In the sense of what I mean by that is that I wanted the tools to be able to work with families and individuals that mixed mental health and biblical principles. I wanted to be able to work in that field. And that's the journey that started me in being able to have the tools to really work with someone with bipolar and families with traumatic experiences, and not feel that yet have prayer and understand there's certain things that you can't do, but that there was a certain part that I really wanted to be able to walk alongside of families and not do more harm, which I was seeing a lot of harm being done in the body of Christ, and that and not intentionally, but do no harm, and watching a lot more. And I wanted to be able to not do harm and being able to work in it.
I love that. Thank you, sis. Justin, why mental health? How did that happen for you?
When I went to school at Rowan University, and it actually wasn't my degree that I was going for, but at the time, a friend that I had's mother was working on a mental health unit it was actually called South Jersey Healthcare before it was called Inspira. And she just thought, maybe I would be good for it. So I interviewed and just ended up basically falling in love with the job, and pretty much the rest has been history. And, the more, I guess you could say, I didn't have a lot of experience, but I was obviously working there. I have gained nothing but experience and
Yeah.
helping kids and, seeing all the different issues. It's really eye opening as far as where some of these kids come from. And, a lot of them owned by the state, or, don't have families, or, they have an illness, and, just being there to help families and talk to parents when they come in, because, that's obviously, especially for the parents, it's the first time that they have to take their son or daughter to a mental health unit, and they're nervous, and, just being there to be that kind of sole voice, like, listen, your son, your daughter, they're going to be safe. And we'll try to work through this together. So it's really had an impact on me. Just thinking about the amount of different patients and kids. And like I said, I do work with the adults as well, which is, obviously a little different working with them, because maybe not as many, the families aren't as involved with the kids when you have a kid patient, but it's just having that impact that's maybe you want to stay with it and grow in the career. So.
But Justin, we'll stay with you for a moment, sir. Were there, and you talk about maybe it wasn't your first choice, you weren't looking at it, but somebody saw something in you, which is awesome. I think that's how so many of us are called into these places and spaces, vocationally, educationally, even in ministry, that, I never saw myself doing that, but lo and behold. Were there any unique barriers or any obstacles to you in your professional journey? You said you fell in love with it. Was there anything that you had to overcome or work against as you were kind of navigating and learning and gaining experience?
Well, I think the biggest thing you're going to have to learn when you get into this field is patience. Because there's going to be a lot of people that, when especially going through like a psychotic break or going through whatever kind of mental illness that they have, or whether it's some type of drug that they ingested, it's, you have to be patient with these people, because I'm going to be honest, you're going to see things that, that the typical person, could get offended, or, could lose their wits or lose their cool. And, you have to stand grounded and understand that these people are, you're there to help them, and you have to battle through what they're going through, So I think that is the biggest thing, is just being patient with people and give it time to let whatever they're there for the therapy to work, or, to find the right medication to possibly get this person to be, successful. So I think that's the biggest thing.
That's good, Justin. Thank you, sir, for sharing. Jazmine, same question. Were there any unique barriers or obstacles that you had to overcome as you fought to make impact?
Yeah, I think I'm going to piggyback off of Justin, that I think the personal internal work you have to do. I had adopted a son who wound up having extreme ADHD, and that his mental health, and he also had depression, really had to teach me not just patience, but the wounds that were in my own heart, because he was like he was pouring salt at times directly into my own wounds, was that I had to deal with me, like how I dealt with my anger, how I dealt with my emotional regulation, how I expressed myself, because he knew exactly where to push the button, right? So those were things that I would not be the woman I am today. I honestly would not be the person I am today if God didn't use him to expose my own heart, my own inabilities, places that I needed God to, especially when I think of the fruits of spirit, really long suffering and laboring and things that I needed that shaped me in my profession. So I would say that was a hindrance, because if I didn't lean into that, which we recently talked with my staff, if we don't work on what is happening in our own hearts, we can actually do more harm, because it will spill over. You can't do this work without realizing it's going to push you and stress you in areas mentally, emotionally, because you're actually walking in some of the mud of their thinking. And if you're not careful in wiping that mud off, it will continue to work on you. And what I mean by that is, if they're having distorted thinking, after a while, things that you never thought about, you become distorted. And so if you don't be careful, it could be a hindrance and a barrier professionally if you're not cautious of how, not taking it lightly, of the work that we do.
That's really good. Justin, did you have something to add to that, sir?
No, no, I agree 100%
Yeah.
with Dr. Desiree. I mean, yeah, it's just the biggest thing is each day and every day you come to work, you got to have the mindset of, what can I do to help these patients today, or if, kind of, we all have bad days too, so, we all go through things in life that are tough and challenging, but at the end of the day, when you come to work, you got to leave those outside things outside and come to work and worry about providing the correct care for these people. And then kind of once that shifts over, then you can worry about, what you need to worry about. So that's about it.
That's good. That's good. I love how you both mentioned though this idea of doing the internal work, and though our audience may have some professionals in it, I think most of the folks tuning in are thinking about a loved one and how they're parenting a child, how they're walking alongside a brother or a sister, how they're dealing with maybe dealing with a parent or an aunt or someone, and so that idea of doing the internal work and recognizing the things that go on with us, because absolutely having parented a child through a season of depression, didn't know how to push the buttons, and was at a particular age where button pushing was very fashionable. And so definitely ditto on Desiree's point of allowing God to do that internal work in us, so as we are caretaking, we can do so with clean hands and pure hearts. Let's go a little bit further. And I'm thinking some maybe about the current environment where funds are being slashed left and right. There are cuts to really valuable and vital programs. I'm thinking about changes in insurance coverage, but I'm also thinking maybe about stigma and some of uh, the shadow side of mental illness. I think Terry alluded to that when she talked about being able to talk to someone safe. Not everyone is ready for your story, and not everyone can be trusted with it. Justin, what do you think are some obstacles or barriers for people as they seek to get treatment and get care for loved ones, or even for themselves when they're dealing with those mental health challenges?
Right. The big word that kind of sticks out in my head when you're just talking is like slashing funding and everything else. I mean, when a patient comes into the hospital and we go and screen them and talk to them, and we feel, and I talk to the doctor and we feel that they need to go to an inpatient hospital. Well, then the next thing is now we're becoming an advocate for them to their insurance companies if they have insurance, because in my opinion, it's just you're fighting for the insurance to cover them, and the insurance company is doing everything and anything not to cover them. So it's a battle. It's a constant battle. Sometimes, you have to say the right words and say why they need it, and try to get them as many days as possible. And sometimes, unfortunately, there's times where people are denied. People are denied placement, and then but that doesn't mean that we stop there. I mean, then we'll go to another resource, or we'll go to another source, or we'll try to figure something out that needs to be done to get this person help. I kind of just think back to the other night. I had somebody that came into the hospital, and they've been an alcoholic for 4 years. They're drinking something crazy, like 20 shots a day for 4 years of hard alcohol. And the man was ready to get help. And trying to get him placed, it was really hard. And the funny part was not the funny part, but he had very good insurance. But sometimes it's like, if you have really good insurance, some places don't want to take it because they know that it's going to be hard for them to get the most money out of that, if that makes sense.
Wow.
So, but we ended up getting him into like we got denied the first couple times, and we ended up getting him into a placement. Hopefully, he's doing well now. So, like I
Yeah.
said, the one thing that I'm proud of for working with this new program at Inspire was about 5 years old, is that is we're fighting for the patients to get
Yeah.
them help. Whereas before this program with Bart, they would come into the hospital, and the nurses and the doctors, they didn't have that second opinion.
Mm.
People
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that are in this field to talk to the patients and try to get them help. So I really think that Inspire is doing a great new job with helping the community with more resources for them and more workers in this field to try to get people help from all over.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Desiree, same question.
Yeah, so we do in-home counseling, so I would say some of this similar to Justin in the sense of the in-home is primarily triggered by children or youth that's having problems, and so we provide therapeutic intervention. So I would say the same thing. In some ways, we have to advocate or fight or help with working with the care managers and getting a placement and helping in those regards. But on a private practice, and I would say some of the insurance issues is not as prevalent at the moment, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of slashing and cutting, so that may not be one of the biggest hindrance. I think uh, right now for obstacle. But what I would say when I read this question, I kind of read it differently. Is that I think what's been hard is when I find in my side is when people the obstacle for successful treatment is often when people get almost accepting their diagnosis as an identity.
Ah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the part that's been a little bit for me. I think as we've been working through as language with my staff and team of because we believe that you can really gain a lot more of the skills. Also with biology, with medications, that there's a lot more help, but not an identity. And almost as if people talk like I have anxiety, and like as if it's an identity, and
It's
there's
who I am, not
it's
something
who
I have.
I am, and
Yeah.
therefore, um, I'm just here to kind of mask or what have you, get coping, or everyone has to work around me,
Ah.
versus no, I have the power to really do some skill work
Yeah.
and some things to empower themselves towards healing. So I think that's where I kind of read it a little bit different, but I would say one of the greatest obstacles for me is in the treatment process would be that.
No, I think that's good and that's vital. And again, for our audience listening, even as we move in the role of caretakers, I think the attitude or the posture that we adopt can play a role in recovery in terms of when I'm dealing with my loved one. How do I treat them? How do I talk to them? How do I talk about them? Is this something we will get through, we can overcome? Or is it, well, you got this and you got that? Am I using it to put them in a box or put limitations on them? I've seen that. I think about not mental illness, but my sister. She passed away in 2015, but she had sickle cell anemia, and one of the things was being cognizant of the medical condition, but at the same time letting her live, giving her the tools that she would need to thrive. We're not going to, deny her an education. No, she needs an education because no matter how long she lives, we expect her to live. So just the way we approach it, how we talk about it, how we posture ourselves. And Des, I'm thinking about how you opened the show talking about your mom advocating, right? Making phone calls, coming alongside Justin to fight the insurance company in the good fight so we can ensure that our loved ones get the resources, get the treatment, get the professional help that they need to gain the skills to navigate and to get through. So thank you both for sharing. Um, I'm going to start with Des with this one, and Justin absolutely chime in. What do you see as the role of the church or faith communities in ministering to the mental health needs of the communities they serve?
Yeah, this is a good question. I think one of the thing is what does it mean? I think one of the things faith communities have to really ask the questions: what does it mean to be a safe community? And what I mean is safe community looks at multiple things. We sometimes want to say, okay, well, I'm loving, and let's, we need to be loving, but loving looks different. So if I'm a traumatized person, you forcing me to hug can make me withdraw, right? So
Right.
teaching the community to ask permission, teaching the community language to be for helping people while they're struggling, right? Because that actually turn people off, right? It's actually withdraws them from the community versus making the community safe. Would be one of mine. I don't know if we want to piggyback off that and we move on, but um, let me go on with a couple more points, or you?
Justin, you got something, sir?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, just from my experience with dealing with some, of the patients, sometimes a lot of the patients or people coming in for help, a lot of them possibly don't have family. Some of them don't have any other loved ones or brothers or sisters. The only thing that they have is their faith. And that gives them a sense of identity or someone that they can lean on for help that they feel like is there to help them. There's been countless times where, people with their church or their pastor, and that gives them, that extra sense of hope to overcome whatever battles that they're going through. So I definitely think faith is a huge thing, and believing in God and the church that you follow, because these are things that can help you move forward without a doubt. So,
And to
So,
piggyback on that would be that also is to create that community, right? Because a lot of what mental health says is, no, I'm not accepted. I can never be there. I can never be a part of this, or or overthinking so much that they tend to isolate, right? So the opposite tends to happen. So I think one of the things I was going to that churches have to be really good at outreach, like following up. If you know the person's struggling, not is to make that extra effort, like Justin said, because sometimes we're the only connection towards hope, um, and that has to be lived out. And so, can I give a great example
go
of that?
for it.
Was I had a woman who her husband came to faith through counseling, but she didn't. But they had a tragedy where their child died, and she went into deep depression. But because he belonged to the church for 6 months, not 1 week, for 6 months, the church rotated where women came every day at 9 o'clock, got her out of bed, and
Wow.
made her go for a walk and bought her Dunkin' Donuts, coffee and stuff. And then the deacons came in and cleaned the house and fixed the plumbing and did any work. And not 1 week or 2 weeks, but they loved on her so much that had moved away from her grief, her depression, a sense of community, and now they're thriving in the community. So I think that's the kind of example I would love to see churches do a little bit more of, really just realizing that we live in an age where people are not well connected to family
Yeah.
or a sense of community, and that's a real way we could be a light.
I love that. So I hear presence, I hear patience, which goes back to Justin's earlier comment, and I hear persistence. And, sometimes a faith community can hit one or two of those, but you talk about persistence, the longevity. And I say this a lot when you talk about a death in a family. People bring you food for a week or two. Everybody surrounds you at the moment of the tragedy. But after the funeral, people disappear. And after the funeral is when grief comes, right? When you're not busy, you're not occupied. Now you're trying to figure out how to navigate. And generally, people are left to do that in isolation because everybody else goes back to their normal life. So absolutely good instruction for the listening ears in this audience. Just a few more questions and then we'll get ready for some Q&A and we'll wrap up. Justin, on a hard day, a bad day, you've been fighting with the insurance company, the patient wasn't responsive, you got stuff going on in your own life. How do you stay motivated, sir? How do you stay motivated to do what you do?
I guess I just feel from working in this field for a long time, I just kind of lean back on my experience and knowing that, the patience, which I said before, but you have to keep moving forward. You have to keep moving forward and find solutions to help people. You know, you can't take no for an answer, right? And I think the biggest thing is, you know, especially when someone comes in that wants to help, because sometimes that can be a battle too. You know, that can be half the battle, because you got people that don't think that they need help, that they can do this on their own, or that, you know, that they're okay, that they don't need anything else to push them forward. When you get the people that genuinely want to help, I mean, I think that just lights a spark in anybody that works in this field, to help them get to get the help. So, like I said, you know, regardless what's going on in my life, you know, at that time when I come to work and I clock in, I'm here for the people, right? It's not about me. It's about serving the community. It's about serving the people that need help, and you know, and that's my goal every day. And yeah, and you're right. I mean, some days there some bad days, but everyone has bad days. Everyone who works and has a job has a bad day at work, but you can't worry about that bad day. You have to move. You have to keep moving forward, and you know, and strive, especially in this field, because you never know what's gonna come in. You know, you never know who's gonna come to the hospital. You never know who's having that bad day, and you're going to be that sense of reasoning for them. You know, and like I said, for the audience or people that are out there, if you're having any type of issues, if you're having any kind of thoughts, or you're having any kind of you know, whatever's going on in your life, and you don't be nervous to get help. I mean, like I said, you know, I work at all 5 of the hospitals in Spirit. We have one in Woodbury, we have one in Mullica Hill, we have it down in Elmer, we have one in Mannington, Vineland. So we have different populations too, right, in the state. And you know, if you come to this hospital and you say you need to you're going to see somebody. You know, they're not just going to tell you to get lost. We're going to try to help you to the best of our ability, and try to understand that there's a lot of things out there for you that you probably don't know about, right? Because I mean, you can Google things, but there's more things, and it's a lot better to see an actual person to try to help you than going through a Google or going on a screen.
Thank you, Justin. I see why Terry wanted you on. Just keep fighting. I hear it. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. Right. Desiree, what keeps you motivated?
What keeps me, one of the main things is, I think that one of the reasons why I call it Healing Quest, it's a quest, right? It's a journey. What motivates me is every day I wake up and say, I'm not God. And so that released a lot of burden, a lot of stress, that I am just a conduit. I'm just a empty vessel. And so that I think is really much a lot of my mindset and trying to stay balanced, and setting clear boundaries. Like, you know, the time when I'm off, right?
Yep.
And just, but I think the biggest thing is surrendering that I don't do the work. I mean, I'm just a conduit, but I'm not the fixer, right? And I'm not the end all. And when that just released so much more burden, because when you feel like you're not making the right choice, or you're feeling a little lost, it's like, God, this is yours. Like, it's a journey. And then it's sure enough, it comes back around where the answers come, and you just see it works together. But it released the stress of saying that carrying a load, someone else's load, because I really say to myself all the time, it's not my load to carry. I'm here temporarily to walk with you, but it's not my load to carry. So it's the mindset of every day of, like you said, I may have bad days, but I remind myself it's not mine to carry, and to stay balanced, and to be hopeful that the path is, when it feels hopeless or helpless, that really it's a journey, right? And I just remind myself of this is a journey, and let's stay balanced and stay healthy, eat right, do all the things that you need to do to do this work consistently.
To say thank you to both of you for sharing your experience, your expertise, your passion. And that is what comes through when I listen to both of you speak. I am thankful to know that there are people in our community, there are people in South Jersey, there are people on the planet who are passionate and who care, that you guys have accepted your call, you've accepted your assignment, and you are passionate about it. It gives me some hope, quite honestly, and some confidence in the middle of everything that we are presently experiencing, to know that there are people who are committed to the fight, still committed to giving quality care and quality support to so many people who need it. So I'm going to say thank you, but the two of you are not done yet. We're going to bring Terry back on so she can kind of sit through and perhaps even weigh in. We have a couple of questions from our audience that we wanted to kind of take while you guys are with us. And so the first question, and Justin, this may be right up your alley, is a mental health counseling referral for children age 6 or up.
I'm looking for mental health counselor for children. I appreciate.
Any assistance or referral. So 6 or up.
She looking for like an outpatient care they're talking, or they're looking for
I'm thinking maybe outpatient, but maybe give both, and then we'll give it to Des. And so we'll let you guys share what you got, and she can tap in.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, we have, if that person, I just would like to give them, I guess, like my email, but different programs that it depends if it's inpatient or outpatient. I know, like we use a place that we always like to refer to as Oaks Integrated. Which is a great place, and that's a walk-up place, and that's more. There's a place down in Vineland for that, but that's usually the ones we usually refer to for outpatient therapy. And for us, if they came to the hospital, it's you come to the hospital, you could talk to one of us, and we can give you like a whole list. Obviously, I can't put the whole list that I have on me, and we will give you all those. And Spirit herself actually has outpatient therapies that they do as well. That they can do inpatient, not inpatient, but it would be like Monday through Thursday you could come.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. Des, you got something for that one, honey?
Yeah, depending on what she's looking for. So if the child is showing at 6 years old, it depends on the behaviors, right? If it's extreme, and they're feeling lost, and there's a lot of things happening at home, and maybe the child is acting up at school, they can call mobile response. I gave you that number earlier, Perform Care. They can contact that and have in-home. They'll come out and do an assessment. They'll contact the family within 24 hours and come out and provide 4 to 8 weeks of services. And then if they assess that they need a longer term, so for example, if the child was deemed to have some autism and hasn't some, then they can go almost 3 to 6 months additional, depending on the care managers and assessments. So depending on where, what if it's something that, behavioral, and they want to work with families and the parenting, that's also mobile response could be a good, as long as it's an emergency and more of a crisis. If, and then we also provide regular individual counseling as well.
Okay. All right. This is a little less specific, but maybe from your professional background. Can you talk about the difference between self-harm and suicidal ideation, and how a parent is to know the difference and when to seek crisis care?
You want me to answer that? Or you
can go first, and I'll kind of piggyback off.
So there is a difference. I think people tend to panic if they see a child cutting and then you have blood. Self-harm is more of a way of it's a way for the person to relieve stress, usually. That's the first kind of sign is, and self-harm comes in multiple ways. Most people think of just cutting, but a child or someone could develop pulling their hair, pulling the eyebrows, biting their nails to the point that it's cutting and bleeding, scratching themselves really deeply. That is a response in which they're trying to regulate or calm themselves, usually with a stressful situation, right? It's not healthy. They need to learn different healthy coping skills, but that's different than suicidal. So people will often think, because actually it fires up an area of the brain that temporarily gives them a temporary release. All right. And that's what they're seeking, because they're getting a temporary release of the stress that they're feeling at the moment. So where it's suicidal is if they're definitely connecting it to, I want to end my life. Right. And and that's a part of their plan. Okay. But usually it's not necessarily tied to suicide. And so the difference would be is if they have a plan. If that's a part of their plan, is I'm going to take the knife and cut myself, then that's definitely where you better get them to crisis. And that's it. They're definitely. But a lot of times, if they're just cutting, a lot of times it's the stressors and the anxiety. Doesn't mean that they don't need help, but they definitely need to get coping skills and get counseling around that.
Yeah, and because sometimes it's hard for us to understand, and dealing with a lot of, over my time with kids that have had self-injurious behaviors, whether it's cutting or like there's pulling hair, for them, it feels good to them at that moment, right? Where like for us, I personally, I couldn't imagine taking a knife and cutting at my arm, but for these kids or even adults, while they're doing this, it feels good to them. And then what happens is after it's over, then that's when they feel bad about it again.
Right.
And it's like a constant cycle that they're these self-injurious behaviors. And I think at that point, once they're having it, it's time to talk to somebody, right? To find, as Dr. Desiree was saying, with different coping skills, because there's a lot of other coping skills out there that are a lot healthier than doing self-injurious behaviors. And at any time that someone's having any kind of suicidal ideations, and I know we went a little further saying suicidal thoughts with a plan, that's definitely time that they need to talk to somebody, because that's a behavior that you shouldn't be thinking. If you're having any kind of suicidal thoughts, we need to get that out of that person's mindset.
Thank you both for sharing. The next question is, I don't. It's a big one, so I am very eager, leaning in for the answer for this one. How do you help a loved one who does not see or refuses to see that they have mental health challenges, but it's clear that they need a helping hand?
That is a tough one, because at the end of the day, right? It's like if someone doesn't want to help themselves, how do you help them, right? Because you can't force somebody help, right? At the end of the day, it has to get to a point where the individual is going to want some type of help. But the worst thing to do, right, as a professional or even as a family member, is you have to keep staying on them, right, to get help, right? Because and show the love, and whether it's battling addictions or drugs and alcohol, right? And there's going to be times where they're doing well. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of different patients that I have had over years that are repeats, right?
Mm-hmm.
They get the help, or they're on a medication and they feel like they don't need the medication anymore because they're doing well, and then they stop, and then the next thing you know, the mental illness comes back, or they relapse and they get back to it's a constant battle. Once someone has a mental illness, for that family or for that family member, I mean, you're going to be something you're going to have to deal with, and it's going to be a constant fight with that family member or with that person that you love, because it doesn't just go away naturally, right? You need therapy, or you need medication, or you need, going to groups and all those types of things out there. But it's tough. It's tough, and I have experience in my life with that. When you don't have somebody that doesn't want to help them or help themselves, that makes it a lot tougher. And you just got to keep trying to be persistent. And it's hard on families. It's hard on loved ones when seeing people go through these struggles. But at the end of the day, you have to, lean on, like we talked about, your faith, and lean on just not quitting on these people until hopefully, for us, sometimes, I think it just seems like easy, right? If you're bipolar, you have some other type of mental health disorder, right? You take a pill a day. What's so hard about it? But for them, some people just don't want to admit that they have a mental illness. I feel like the last couple of years, mental health has been kind of put on a spotlight, where it's more accepting, whereas back years and years ago, right? Well, they have mental health. They have a mental health disorder. Look out. Now there's a stigma where people, that they're trying to help more with this. It's okay. It's the same. Mental illness is the same thing as having a bad knee, right? You need to get treated for it. So it is a tough one, but I can say, like, with that question, is you have to stay on your loved one, and just try to keep going at it. And it's going to be a tough fight, without a doubt.
Thanks, Justin. Desiree?
Yeah. So what I've learned over the years, and even watching my mom and several siblings that we've had to journey, and I'm not saying we've been perfect as a family, but what I've learned is a tension between enabling and boundaries. And what I mean by that is that's a real tension, because we want to love, but often people will not come and actually face it until they hit bottom.
Hmm.
And it's hard for families to watch that. And I'm not trying to say you don't love through. I
Right.
think this has to be, I'm saying loving through the process, but there's times that you do have to set the hardcore boundary so they can come to the end of themselves, right? And often I've seen families interrupt that
Mm.
and enable it, and then that it continues to cycle. But if they would have let them really fall to the point that then that's when they're going to say, okay, I will go get the help. And sometimes that's really hard, right? That's the hard stuff of giving them housing. It's hard it's a lot of really tough decision making around that. But often that's, to me, that's what I would say is
Yeah.
often to get to that point. It's that tension between, am I enabling and when do I set a boundary?
Good.
That's good.
That's great.
Absolutely.
That's a great point.
Our last question, closely tied to this one, is how do you help parents who are in denial about some of the mental health behaviors that are displayed in their children?
How do you help parents who are in denial about something? Yeah, I mean that's another tough question as well. I feel like, especially in the years of myself working on a mental health unit, you see these parents come in and they're just, you feel for them, right? They're crying, and they have to drop their daughter or son off, and what is this place, and what do you mean, he's having his first psychotic break, or he's bipolar, and there, I guess, just like anything, there's always in human behavior kind of like a sense of denial, right? Especially the first time that something happens, you don't think, oh no, that can't be right, that can't be right. But the biggest thing that we always have done is we always try to assure the parents when they come to the mental health unit, like, listen, first and foremost, number one is that your daughter, your son is going to be safe, and we set up family sessions to have with the parents when they come in. They might not be able to talk to their son or daughter every time they call the unit, right? But they can always get an update. We have our therapists that work there. We have our doctor they can talk to. They have the nursing staff that they can talk to try to help them understand, to get it through to them, that possibly there is something going on. And then you have some parents that, they don't believe in medication, or they don't want medication to work. And then usually they keep coming back, then they start buying into possibly maybe they do need some medication, right? There's always that whole battle, and I can understand it now being a parent, whereas when I started working there 20 years ago, I wasn't a parent, right? When you're a parent, I can see why, there's that denial, and, you don't want your kid to, go through these things. And it's a tough task, dealing with the parents that are having issues like that. It's not easy, but at the end of the day, I think there just has to be that trust factor where they believe, there has to be trust.
It's good. Des?
Yeah, I would definitely, I think it's often parents have to go through, once again, to themselves, coming to the end where they just at the point of helplessness, they start to recognize. I found, and I would say a high number of the children that I've worked with, the parents had also struggle with some elements of mental health. So it's um, or some of the symptoms that may magnify more in the child, right? And especially after the pandemic, right? There was that these some more things in the children in the last, and then we're just starting to see a lot of the impact of them being home, or a lot of the anxieties. They lack social skills during that time period that was critical during their development. There is and so the parents do need that counsel to help them to see and listing what they're what the I think a good therapist needs to help them to work through it. How do you help them on a lay level? I'm really working with a couple family members myself, but it's one of the things is I've had to really educate them or encourage them to get the help and sit down. And it took a minute. I just really recently got a relative to finally get the help for their child. And so it is tough work. I just can't really explain more than that's a journey in itself to get the parent, and just being there through it. It's a journey.
And Teresa, I mean, how you do things like this is why this is great for people. It just shows that they're not alone. You know,
Yeah.
like you might feel like you're alone when you're dropping your son or your daughter, you're taking them somewhere, but there's other people out there that are going through these struggles as well. And you know, this is why it's great you do things like this. And there's groups out there that, you know,
Yeah.
you can talk with other parents and, you know, you can come up with ideas and how you deal with this and coping skills, right? It's why it's just great to be around other humans that want to put that time in for that.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Justin. And
Absolutely.
thank you, Desiree and Justin, for doing this with us, because we can't do it by ourselves. You guys are experts and you have answers for those people that have the questions, and want the resources, things that I just felt like I didn't have the opportunity to have. And that's why we're doing what we're doing, because we don't want others and families to have to go through that all alone. So I just want to personally say thank you, to both of you. Of course, our motivational moderator, you are amazing, as always. And we're going to keep doing things like this. And even like throughout the year with our different events, we don't get lost in the event. We absolutely keep our mission, and make sure that we stay on topic of what we're trying to push forward, because at the end of the day, it's about helping people. We just have to be creative sometimes to get that mission and that point across. So thank you guys.
I do. Can I say one other thing? If anyone does have needs of resources or information, I'm just going to just give you my email out there. It's George J1, right? My name's Justin George. So George J1 at ihn.org. And if you need information or anything, I can send you some resources. Don't hesitate. I'll try to send you that information. Once again, George J1 at ihn.org.
And I have to say something just real quick. I know we're over our time, but God is so good, because and everything happens for a reason. There's no accidents, right? I met Justin at our 5K 1 mile walk. He
Oh,
wasn't walking or running or anything. He had his little boys and he was like, what's going on? Like, there's something happening. And his little boys wanted to get their face painted and wanted some water ice.
Yeah, they saw the water ice, so they're right for it. Oh yeah.
Thank you to my brother, Big Head, Water
Yeah.
Ice. And you know, Sean McGeady, I love her. She's like, every year she says, you gotta meet this person. You gotta meet this person, because I'm running around like a chicken with their head cut off. And she brought me Justin. And this is going to
wow.
just be such an awesome relationship. You
Yeah.
are a friend to the fund. Desiree has been a friend. She has joined with us and partnered with us on so many other occasions. And like I said, we appreciate you guys. And this is how we're going to build this, by building relationships like this. So thank you guys.
You got it. My
Thank you.
pleasure. Anytime, Teresa.
Yes, we will build, we will grow, we will stay connected. I am going to give the floor to Terry for just a few short announcements. We're over the time, but thank you all so much. Thank you to our presenters, our facilitators. So blessed to meet you, to get to know you, to get into relationship with you. I know, Des, we go way back. Justin, good to meet you, sir. I am
Yeah,
sure we
nice
will
to
be
meet
fast friends. Terry will give you some dates that you should stay aware of, so that we can make sure we stay connected to the action, the advocacy, and the activities of the fund. So Terry, if you'll close this out, my dear.
Very quickly. Okay, the very next event we have planned is our fall festival. It's on October 11th. We are going to be at TPC, the Perfecting Church, 274 Delsea Drive. We're going to just have an awesome time. There'll be vendors out there selling their products, introducing themselves to the community, food, fun, music, just a good old time, but always staying on topic, advocating for mental health. Our next event will be the Martin Luther King Day. We actually collab with the Perfecting Church once again. big ups to the Perfecting Church and Loving Our Cities. And they have an event there every year. It's January 19th this year. That is a Monday. And then we will be venturing out to Camden, New Jersey, and Philadelphia to feed the homeless and also supply clothing and warm items for them. And then the comedy fundraiser will be March 14th. More information to come. And the 5K 1 mile walk will be May 2nd at Washington Lake Park in Washington, New Jersey. And Justin, I hope you bring your boys out again for that water ice that they so love. So I'm not going to keep you any longer. We'll close out with actually my lovely LA, and just thank you to everyone that participated and however you participated. And please, please, please follow us on social media, and we will try to get back to you with any information and resources to help you navigate through whatever you're going through, whatever your family member or loved one may be going through. Have a great, great night, guys.
Good night. God bless you. Thank you, family. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Stay connected. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.